And what followed then was an outpouring of very strongly held views on a wide range of topics. So ostensibly this is a discussion about same-sex marriage, and yet the conversations were about these topics, about Christianity, about morality, about parental authority, the nature of democracy, culture, human rights, the role of women, teenage pregnancies, abortion, divorce, AIDS, prostitution and witchcraft. And homosexuality was hardly mentioned at all. And wherever it was mentioned, it was only referred to as this thing or that idea, something that could not, in a sense, be named or spoken about in that context. And government policies, in other words, government policies that guaranteed equality on the basis of sexuality, were criticized very strongly and cast in a very morally dubious light, and were seen to be potentially bringing calamity to the country. A man suggested that the government's laws on gender equality had produced stubborn women who talk of rights and do not respect their men. And one speaker delivered a tirade against child support grants, claiming that this had led to a wave of teenage pregnancies. So the government and its laws, according to speaker after speaker, had set children against parents, learners against teachers, women against men, good against evil, Christian and traditional values against secular laws. And the last straw, according to the audience, was this new measure that would now allow men to marry men and women to marry women. But I'll go through some of the key objections. Why was it so objectionable to have this new development? And these objections were articulated in the meeting, and I think it's worthwhile paying some closest attention to the specific objections that were presented, because it would give a better understanding of exactly what underlies what we call, I think somewhat inaccurately and somewhat broadly, homophobia. So the main objection to homosexuality and same-sex marriages that was expressed at all the provincial hearings was that homosexuality didn't produce children. So this objection was closely linked to the erosion of gender roles and norms. And the Bible was frequently used to stress the importance of procreation. And I think it's important to note that tradition and kind of the Bible were used interchangeably. So the Bible was used to say that, multiply in the world, reproduce and fill the earth, these familiar phrases, have children and multiply, these echoed through the hearings. But then there were also more practical considerations that were raised. So someone asked, how are you going to get her pregnant? This was asked of a lesbian from the Equality Project, indeed the only lesbian voice that was present at any of the hearings. And how would two men make children? Can they get pregnant to multiply their family? Asked someone in Limpopo. And a man from the Northwest Province who had 12 children from his 3 wives exclaimed, I have children with these women, so where will children come if I marry another man? And another person put it in these terms, and I quote, if a woman marries another woman, are they going to make children the way we do, or what? These people are like a stone or a dry piece of wood. Have you ever heard of a pregnant stone or dry wood that bore children? So that was the one. The other was to do with relatives and kinship. A gay person does not have relatives. A closely related factor was that children were then seen to be the embodiment and confirmation of family alliances, set in motion through the marriage between two individuals and consolidated them through children. So same-sex partnerships were seen as contrary to family and to kinship ties. As one person said, a male participant at the KwaZulu-Natal workshop, a gay person does not have relatives because he cannot give birth. Or as the MC at the Limpopo workshop put it, a marriage amongst us is intended to bring two families together. So this point was stressed a lot. And it's an idea that was also contained in the formal submission of the Congress of Traditional Leaders to the parliamentary hearings in 2006. And I quote, marriage is between two families, two clans, two tribes, and even two nations. So you see how the individual there is diminished as a representative of a broader social claim. It's about the establishment of blood ties between the two entities through, among others, the birth of children. A same-sex marriage cannot bring about the birth of children. So in this framework, a same-sex marriage is seen to break family and kinship ties and to threaten social cohesion. So in the hearings, the idea of procreation and family alliances was contrasted with European-style weddings. So again, there's this contrast between this is an African culture and this is what Europeans do. So it was, and that became a focal point for framing the debate as one between African culture and tradition and foreign Eurocentric values, often articulated in racial terms. And just to quote again from the Limpopo workshop, marriage amongst us black people is not the same as amongst the white people. In our system of marriage, we are actually bringing two families together. That is what marriage means to us. So with whites, it is just two concerned people getting married. So that is not how we do things amongst our blacks. So amongst us blacks. So you see how it's framed very much in these racial terms, this African tradition compared to foreign European values. And a speaker at KwaZulu-Natal echoed these views by saying, and I quote, "Gays were not in existence among the Zulus. Gays were prevalent amongst whites and colours. They are the ones who are gay. They walk around in tight pants." So it was apparent from the hearings that the discussions about same-sex marriage were an opportunity to express deeper concerns about changing gender roles, the erosion of masculine authority, and the increased autonomy of women and youth. Discussions about this thing or that idea meandered seamlessly into other terrains, such as I've mentioned, the reflections on teenage pregnancy, legal abortion, the ordination of women priests, even the Beijing Conference, infidelity, and troublesome girls. So the erosion of patriarchy and gerontocracy was summed up in a pithy statement made by a male speaker at the KwaZulu-Natal hearings, who said, "And you girls, as you say, you have rights. Fine, go ahead and destroy us because you want to do what you want. Children make their own laws, women make their own laws." The authority of elders, parents, and men is seen to be undermined. And bear in mind that this is a debate about same-sex marriage. And notice how this thing becomes a symbolic reference that extends way beyond the thing itself. A speaker at the Mpumalanga hearing laid the blame squarely at the door of the government. He said, "Today parents no longer feel like they are parents because of people in Parliament. Police today no longer feel that they are policemen because of people in Parliament. Teachers no longer feel that they are teachers because of people in Parliament." So once again, the speaker expresses a strong sense of authority being systematically undermined. So to reiterate, there's several clear messages coming out of the workshop. Non-procreative marriages are unacceptable, gays are excluded from networks of family and kinship, and the authority of men and elders was seen to be in decline. But what about explicit references to homosexuality, to the extent that that did come for same-sex marriages? This thing and that idea, as these were expressed in the hearings. How did people conceptualize and think about homosexuality, aside from its sort of symbolic manifestations? And there was